Today we're interviewing Gwen Gardner, a longtime founder of the 22-year-old sustainable clothing brand Simply Chickie. After learning she had breast cancer while also discovering she was pregnant, Gwen was forced to rethink everything about her health and her lifestyle. As she prepared to raise her daughter, she became increasingly concerned about the products family use every single day, and she found hidden chemicals found in conventional clothing and cotton. What she discovered shocked her, and it truly inspired her to take action. And that's what sparked the creation of Simply Chickie, an organic baby clothing brand that's safe. In this conversation, Gwen shares her incredible story behind her transition from a teacher and an author to an entrepreneur, and the challenges of building a business as a mom, and the lessons she's learned along the way. If you've ever wondered how ordinary people turns life's biggest obstacles into opportunities, then you definitely want to watch this episode. Start by telling me a little bit about yourself, like where you grew up and about your early childhood.
Sure. I grew up in West Hartford, Connecticut. We really never traveled. I was just running around in the backyard, painting, reading, doing all the creative things as a kiddo, and then I went to college, and then kind of went on from there.
And where did you go to college? And I know you did college for English, right, for teaching. And so, how did you become interested in teaching, and how did you know that you wanted to go down that road?
I went to Hartford College for Women, and I got an Associate of Arts. And then I went on to the University of New Hampshire and finished out with a Bachelor of Arts in English and with a minor in Japanese Studies. And what I ended up doing was I went to Japan and taught. I taught English in Japan and decided that that was really fun. So I returned to the States, and I got my master's in teaching secondary English. And then I moved to Texas and I taught down there. And then I ended up moving back to the area, moved to Newport, Rhode Island, where I currently am. But then I went into writing. So I actually have two masters. I went to Vermont College and got my master's in writing for children.
Oh, wow, that's so interesting. So, you kind of went in the teaching space and then you shifted to writing. And what age was this at? Was this in your 20s or your 30s?
No, let's see, my first master's was in my 20s. And then I lived in Texas and taught. And then I moved back to actually the Hartford area, and I was in admissions for a while. I became director of admissions, and then I decided to get my writing degree. So that would have been like late 30s. Yeah, late 30s for that.
What
Yeah.
made you want to go into writing?
Um, well, I was an English major, and I really liked children's books, and I just read a lot. So I thought, oh, I don't know. I thought I'm just going to get a writing degree and start writing. It's one of these things in life that, I don't know, you just have an idea and then you kind of just go do it.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, normally I feel like I don't hear enough people like switching careers, after they've started a career. And so it's really great to hear that like there's options like that out there, even if you want to switch and, try something new and creative. So that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to jump first and ask questions later. That's just the way my life has been. So,
Yeah, I think that's honestly a principle to live by because, like, just go ahead and try it out and then see if it fits, see if it works. Yeah. And so,
yeah.
what was your first children book? Like, did you actually end up writing children books and publishing them?
Yeah, what I did is, in the process, you write a lot, And I did end up writing like a YA. And then I wrote a few children's books. They didn't get published, but what I did do is after I had my degree, and then I ended up moving to Newport, Rhode Island. And I think you read on my website, like you know, got pregnant and had a child, but I had cancer and that whole story. But I I wrote a poem about my child, and instead of putting it in a book, I actually put it on a T-shirt, and it became like a really popular poem. So I am published, but I'm published on a T-shirt, and I've sold thousands all over the world, really, this one particular poem. And so I say that I would not have been able to write that poem if I hadn't gotten my master's degree. I would not have been able to write that poem.
Wow, and can we like dive a little bit deeper on like where you got the inspiration for this poem? You mentioned that like you were pregnant but then were also diagnosed with cancer at the same time.
Yeah, so the inspiration was my daughter, and she was about 6 months old, and she was crawling around on the floor, and but I had taken a nap with her, and I woke up and her little soft breath was on me, and I'm like, world peace is possible. You just had this mommy moment, and then as she was crawling around on the floor, I was like, there is other stuff inside of her. So I created this poem that starts, inside me I've got world peace, uh, two rainbows, light from four stars, green stuff, milk, some dog hair, and a raisin. And I decided to put it on a T-shirt because I had started a company at that point. Because I had cancer, I started really kind of cleaning up my entire living, to what I was eating, to what I was putting on my skin. And then when I decided to start this clothing company, I started researching textiles because of my teaching background. It was just like research was kind of in me. And I discovered that regular cotton, the conventional cotton, is one of the most polluting crops in the world. So I found an organic option, and I thought, instead of just putting this in a book, I'm going to put this on a little T-shirt on organic cotton and kind of put it out into the world that way. And it was very successful.
Wow, and so that was like the launching of your business, Simply Cheeky, right?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I had a few other designs, but that particular one, what I did is I decided to, again, one of my jump first, ask questions later. I'm starting this company, and I started going to a lot of the big shows. So I went to a big Las Vegas children's show. I took that shirt, the poem and the shirt, and a couple of other designs, and I went to the big show. And on the last day, this one guy came by, and he dropped his card on the table, and he's like, could you send me that one and then something else I had? So the poem one. And it was Signals catalog, which is an international catalog with exactly my client, like first time aunties, first time grannies. It was a huge magazine. And so I sold like all over the world. I was like one of their best sellers for like 5 years. And so yeah, I was really lucky.
Wow, that's amazing. And so going back a little bit to you actually starting your company, Simply Cheeky, how did that vision come to life? And you kind of talked about your inspiration behind why you wanted to start it because you were pregnant and you were just diagnosed. But how did you actually start it? And like, were you like just dive into this and like, just go into it first, or how did that come to life?
Yeah, so I actually had like a little printing machine at home, and I would paint the designs, and then I would, put them on the computer, screen them, and then I would add, words. But then obviously this one was all words. And then I would print them myself. And then I took them to farmers markets and artisan markets. I just started like asking people. I went to the Chamber of Commerce, like, how do we do this? Yada, yada. And then just started going to a lot of farmers markets. And that's where my client is, because they are looking to see basically the farmer or the artist, and they understand like the quality, so they're willing to pay what it's really worth. So I found success at farmers markets, and then I started diving a little bit more into wholesale. I started a website, and then so each channel kind of grew. It was a side hustle for a very long time. And then I went kind of full time in 2018, because I had built up like enough retail stores. I had, decent income from my website. And then I also was doing a lot of shows. So it was just incremental. It was not overnight success. It was a lot of work and a lot of time. And I started in like 2005, and I didn't go full time until 2018. So it was a long time that it was just a side hustle. And then obviously, this is what I do full time.
Wow, that's really interesting. And so I think that's a lesson that, young business owners can take away too, is that like you don't have to be on like these huge shows and stuff just to get your business started. You can literally just go to your local farmer markets and stuff and start presenting your idea and get customer validation and see if it's like an actual viable product.
Yeah, because you can see who's buying it. You can ask them questions. You can find out where they live. You can kind of figure out how old they are. And so I just engage people, and I like people. So I have conversations with these people even before, I just want to find out where they're from, what they like to do, if they have any little ones in their life. So I just start creating a relationship with these people, and yeah, and that's what it is. It's really just about connecting with people, and relating and building relationships, and as with anything in life.
Yeah, totally. And in this process, how important would you say customer validation is before you actually get your business up and running? Like, understand if this is a real problem that customers are willing to pay for.
That it's obviously a big one, because you need, in order, it's a hobby until you're actually making money. So it's important to fill that niche, um, because those are the people who are going to, buy your product. But it also always goes back to your why. I know that's kind of a buzzword, because the long nights and the roller coaster, you have to like go back to your why. And my why has always been can we move away from fast fashion? Can we basically save the planet? So I'm basically saving the planet, hopefully like one onesie at a time.
I love that motto and that style of thinking because I think it is really important to go back to your why and like why you're doing this. Why am I so passionate about it? Because it's easy to get lost with the stress and the work. So, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And so, yeah, but the other people have to also see your vision so that they pay you, so that you can kind of keep going. So customer validation, to your point, is really important.
Yeah, totally. And so, you started your business Simply Cheeky, and you have continued it obviously for a long time. I think around 20, 22 years now, since you started it. What are some lessons you've learned from starting your business?
One of the lessons that I have learned is to build a village, like build a community, because being an entrepreneur is a little bit lonely. So throughout my life, I've sought out community in a variety of different ways. I'm part of the local chambers of commerce. There are several women's groups I'm involved in, and they kind of run the gamut, like younger, my age, men and women. But it's all about building community because other entrepreneurs get you. Like your family and your good friends, your friends in corporate jobs or your family, they can support you, but they don't know what you're going through. So it's really important to find community like other businesses, like other people who are entrepreneurs. So like building the village is really important and always kind of maintaining that contact. Because there are some real lows. But like everybody has gone through the same stuff. It's like, so part of it is like commiserating when things are going bad, but then like when you have success, they're like, yay.
And I think it's like a great way to get mentoring too, right? From people who have been in the same shoes as you once upon a time.
Yeah, definitely, because everybody has a different entrepreneurial journey. Some people are further down the road, some people are just starting. And that's not to say that you can't learn a lot from someone who is starting because they're coming at things with a different perspective. And so I think people all along the journey can help each other in whatever point.
Totally, yeah. So, from your 20 years of doing this, there have been like, I'd say a lot of like social media changes, different ways of marketing, changes in the industry that's been going on for quite a while. How have you adapted to that, like as time has gone and as your business has been growing?
So that's the other thing that's really important is education. So all along, I've always been trying to stay up on what's going on. So in the beginning, you kind of had to have a website. And then, oh my goodness, there's this thing called Facebook. Oh, should we be on that? Should we have a page on that? And then Instagram comes on, but you always also have to be thinking about your client. Like you're always defining your client. And sometimes that takes a while to really hone in because you know what they say, there's riches in the niches. Like if you try to be for everybody, it's not really going to work. But I know that my client is a first-time grandmother. I'm an apparel company, but I am a gift item. So, I have to pay attention to what those first-time grandmothers are looking at. And in the beginning, we're talking, it's like, well, it is farmer's market, it's Facebook. And then, people age. So we're talking about Instagram. And so I'm the baby boomer, but Gen X and millennials. So I haven't personally really gotten into TikTok because my client is still kind of, they're on Instagram even, and the older ones are definitely still on Facebook, but it's that constant education of like, what's going on, uh, like in the wholesale industry, in the basically, online. And then, are there things with like guerrilla marketing, like at the farmers markets, like there's different things you can do. And I'm always talking to like this person next to me and that person, like, what are you doing? And so it's always trying to stay educated about what's going on, what could be going on. And it's just keeping your finger on the pulse of the world.
And attending to your niche, like not trying to reach everybody because that's practically impossible.
Yeah, no, you can't because you're going to pull in people definitely from other, whatever demographics, but if you focus on one, then it can kind of expand from there. But yeah, like just focusing in on your demographic is pretty helpful. And then like with this whole AI thing, now, like literally this week, I am working with someone I'm calling her, she's AIing me. So we're taking a look at the website. We're going to be doing a bunch of stuff. And so it's just, so again, staying up on the trends and what's going on and being educated so that you can move through changes, because things are always changing.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree with that. That's a great piece of advice. I want to share a fact that, or a surprising fact that I found recently. Um, it's 72% of women don't know how to manage finances in their own business. And so I've gotten pretty passionate about like helping women understand finances in business and stuff. And so I was wondering what pieces of advice you have about that and how you manage your finances in business.
Sure. So I think one thing as business owners, especially in the beginning, you think you can do everything,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to recognize your strengths. So I have always had an accountant from day one, always had an accountant. So that's not particularly my strength. I'm creative. I can deal with people, da 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 da. So I've I've always had an accountant, because that's not particularly a strength of mine. So he kind of keeps me in line, helps me continue to figure things out. And then I have mentors. And so I have to physically produce like each month, like what's going on. Like, let's pay attention to, the ROI, yada, yada. But I think you have to outsource what isn't necessarily your strength. So I've done that from the beginning.
And so get like a mentor or an accountant or someone that can really do the stuff that maybe you're not as good as.
Yeah, if you're not good at social media, but you again, like if you are good with people and you're good at going to meetings and setting up meetings or even podcasts, like do that and look at the other parts of the business that you could potentially outsource so that you can spend more time. Basically, our job uh, as head of your company is sales, and then I realize that social media has a lot to do with sales, but if you're better at picking up the phone and talking to someone or going to a show and meeting someone and that's your strength, then outsource the other things that you're not so great at, because you're not great at everything. It's impossible.
Yeah, totally. So don't try to cover everything. You just kind of pick what you're good at and stick to that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and then find help, and like you can barter. Like you can, you don't have to spend lots of money, because you're within this entrepreneurial space. If you have this community, you're like, hey, how about we trade this? I can do this for you, or can you do this for me? So that's also part of having the village to help you with the things that you might not be great at, and then you can barter, trade, that kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. So, kind of going back, reflecting back, this is like the last kind of piece. But if you were to go back like 30 years, let's say, and give yourself a piece of advice as a woman entrepreneur that was in high school, what would you say high schoolers can do right now to get that business experience and plan for the future?
Join your local chamber of commerce. um, find find any internship, and wherever you work, like try to meet all the people in the workplace, because they're all doing something different, and you might be able to learn something that you might not necessarily be able to use now, but you might in the future. So it's about building relationships, like make a lot of friends. Like just start making friends in every category you can think of.